Marik, you've been working with the alternative media out of Argentina for long. Can you tell us what the scene is like there?
Uh, well, in recent years, there's always been a strong tradition of political film and social documentary in Argentina since the 60s and the 70s, with various collectives and groups producing political films, anti-colonial films, working class films, and that tradition has been passed on through the generations. In the 80s and 90s, there was few productions, but really things really took off as far as a large network of alternative video makers after the 2001 financial crisis in Argentina. So you had an upsurge of filmmakers, video collectives, individuals, and other alternative media groups collectively and sometimes even collaborating together on different projects, focusing on the social movements and, of course, the social problems that resulted from the 2001 financial crisis in Argentina, which culminated in a popular rebellion on the 19th and 20th of December 2001, where hundreds of thousands poured out into the streets to protest against a state of siege imposed by then President de la Rua, and growing problems of people getting their savings taken away from them in the peso devaluation, where the local currency devalued, and widespread poverty and unemployment. So you had videos on the unemployed workers, or the piqueteros as they're commonly known, unemployed workers who organize themselves in their neighborhoods to solve problems in their neighborhoods, and also to they were also performing or organizing direct actions, commonly known as a road blockade, which is when they would go out into the highways and they would literally block transit, commerce, everything. They would hold literally barricades with their faces covered and with self-defense against police repression.
In terms of numbers, how many say films, alternative films, would be coming out every year in documentary? Or
I would say, as far as a number of alternative media films or activist films, I would say at least 50 a year. During the 2001, 2002, 2003, it was a little bit higher. I would say around at least 100 videos.
How do these get marketed? I don't mean in the commercial sense of the word, but how do they spread around? How do they get audiences?
The number one way has been through community screenings. So that means in various collectives and groups, they have video projectors. So they bring their video projectors to a protest, to a street action, to a community event happening all around Argentina, in Greater Buenos Aires, which is the suburbs. And so they hold screenings, and generally it has an audience between 20 and 100, and sometimes even hundreds of people in one shot. That's been the most effective way. Some groups have been fighting to get access to the National Film Institute, which have several theaters in Argentina, for them to be able to use those venues for for alternative film festivals, for working class film festivals, distribution in DVDs. Which means that you go to an activity like a camp or a conference or a film festival or a screening or a protest, and sometimes these groups have a table with their videos, and so common people like a school teacher, somebody who's a student studying social movements or social issues, that take their video and screen it in their classroom or with another group.
Do alternative filmmakers believe in the Creative Commons or some kind of shareable licenses in Latin America? Are they willing to experiment or try it out?
I think a lot of groups have been really willing to experiment. We're Grupo Alavío, the collective that I'm involved with.
What's it called?
Grupo Alavío, the collective that I'm involved with. We produce videos, and monthly we've been producing a monthly DVD,
I see.
which is kind of like a DVD magazine,
I
which
see.
includes 2 hours of materials on different issues, and oftentimes we include videos from other groups.
I see.
We get their permission. They say, of course, it's great. And seeing it as a tool, not that they would be losing the sales of their own
Yeah.
video, but as a possibility for a wider distribution, because every month every DVD
Yeah.
copy at least 200-300
I see.
DVDs, so it's really a wide distribution, and it's kind of breaking with the myth that because something is low budget
Yeah.
or made kind of in a homemade way, that it can't be distributed on a massive scale. And so there's other collaborations with doing joint screenings
I
has
see.
been another success as far as collaboration, changing the norms of Creative Commons. And then Grupo Alavío, we have a project called...
What does the group name mean?
Alavío is... there's a tradition of what is called a free worker. At the beginning of the century, a lot of immigrants from Italy, from Spain, many social activists were coming, or union activists, better said, came to Argentina, and many of them were socialists or anarchists. And in the countryside, these workers would travel from farm to farm during the harvest. And along with them, they would carry what is called an avío in Spanish, and the avío is literally like a little satchel, kind of what the hobos use, the little bag. And inside this bag,
Yeah.
they would carry anarchist pamphlets,
I see.
pamphlets and literature for freedom, for political prisoners being held by the government, different types of literature. So the avío became kind of a tool.
I see.
As far as carrying media and distributing media. So al avío in Spanish, it's something that we put together. The word in Spanish doesn't exist. So avío is a satchel.
Okay.
Al in Spanish is to the. So it's kind of like to the action.
Okay.
To the road ahead.
Okay.
And like the anarchists use their little satchel to distribute materials, we, Grupo Alavío, we use DVDs, the internet in a similar form.
Interesting. Lastly, isn't it a bit sad that we have so little exchanges between our continents in terms of film? Mm-hmm. Shouldn't we be having more, since we have similar problems, similar issues?
I've gotten inquiries from India, people working and organizing the unemployed specifically, and so the problems are quite similar, and I think they're even going to become even more similar with the pending global crisis as they hit each of the countries with massive unemployment once again, and further injustices. I think that language is the main barrier, as well as the distance.
Yeah.
So I think making an attempt to subtitle films would be definitely a big help, because I know that social movements and people organizing in Argentina and in other countries in Latin America would certainly benefit from learning about the experience here in India of people organizing themselves for social change.
Thanks so much, Mari. It's a pleasure
Thank
meeting
you. It was
you.
a pleasure.